Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, we're talking all about sales. My guest is Jeff Shore, a highly sought after sales keynote speaker. His sessions inspire audiences across the globe to change their mindset and change their world. He has been a speaker, author, and consultant for over 3 decades. His innovative, research-driven buying formula is more than just another sales technique. It's a fundamental shift in how to approach the sales process. Jeff is the author of numerous books. He has his own podcast, and he has so much good sales knowledge to share with you. Please enjoy Jeff Shore. Jeff, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast, all the way from Northern California, where I used to live. It's so nice to see you today.
It's good to see you too. I think a lot of your listeners are probably not aware that, if you're from Southern California, you just tell people you're from California. But if you're from Northern, you specifically say I'm from Northern California. It's this
Yeah,
weird kind of one-sided rivalry. Like Northern California is like, I'm not sure how much I like Southern California, and Southern California is like, what's Northern California? I don't know. Is that north of Topanga? I don't know what that means.
that's
So
so funny. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I would say that could be true. Yes,
yeah,
but I love all of California. I actually have a
yeah,
lot of like California stuff behind me. Like I have a
yeah.
bear, I have my
There you go.
Cali sign. I've lived in northern, southern, like I'll
Yeah.
take it all. It all has
It,
good
and
stuff to offer.
and it's such a diverse state. I mean, people think if you're in the East Coast, you think Hollywood, you think the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever. It's a you got mountains, you got beaches, you got everything in between,
Yeah.
and I love the variety here for sure.
I know. We have the best weather, like,
We
not to
do.
brag, but it's just gorgeous.
We
I'm so
really do.
glad I found you. Like, looking at your LinkedIn, we have so many people in common,
Yeah.
and it's just great to finally meet you.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you've really built your career in the new construction kinda world,
Right.
sales training, but give us the elevator pitch of who
Sure.
you are.
Yeah, it has. This is my niche industry, is the home building industry. I do quite a bit of public speaking, and I've spoken for a lot of different industries. But home building is my passion. That's my home. And Shore Consulting, there's 15 of us on the team. We work with a lot of the largest home builders in the country. If you've ever gone in to look at a model home and talk to a salesperson, there's a pretty good chance that somebody on my team did the professional training for that salesperson. So we're the big fish in this particular pond. But
Mhm.
I love the home building world in general, but especially enjoy studying the way that people make purchase decisions and what home buyers go through, because it's one of the most stressful things that you will go through in your entire life. So it's fun just to sort of crawl around in the brain of a home buyer and see what's firing and what their concerns are and everything else. I find it just incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, I've been on the customer side in the Bay Area as a customer of a new home build, and then I
Yeah.
also did some consulting and speaking for a new home builder. So I
Mm,
know a little bit about it because of those 2 different experiences.
right.
Why do you think that I mean the real estate market, but new home build industry, I would say customer service in the last few years, it's been hard.
Yeah.
What is going on? Is it hard? Why or why not?
Yeah, it really is hard. There's so many external factors over the last few years that have caused home builders to have to really adjust very, very quickly. It's a complicated business anyway, in the most normal and stable of times. But let's face it, the last 5 years have not been the most normal and stable of times. So it's a constant juggling act. Then you add to the fact that when people are in the process of buying a home, it's an emotional purchase. It was an emotional decision. They're spending a ton of money, and they're going to be committing to doing so for years and years to come, every single month. It's not surprising then that they would get worked up when things don't go well. So it has not been the easiest business to try and perform at a seamless level over the last few years.
Yeah, with COVID, so then everyone was trying to find a home, and then I understand with supply chain, there was just a
Yeah, it
lot falling
was
short.
crazy.
Customers
Yeah,
were frustrated; they couldn't move in.
right.
Let's just talk because our audience, they're not just they're all across the
Sure.
spectrum. Can
Right.
you just talk about sales training and like
Yeah.
what makes a good salesperson?
Boy, that's a good question. What makes a good salesperson? Well, first of all, I think that's really an important question. If you are either a salesperson yourself and I want to ask myself the question, how do I excel? Or if you are a manager and you're looking for a great salesperson, then it's always best to sort of define what is that avatar? What is the avatar of a really great salesperson? And I tend to look at it and say that great salespeople share three traits that are really, really important. And if you show me somebody with these three traits, I can turn them into a superstar, regardless of whether they've actually sold or not. So those three traits would be high achievement drive, right? So winners got to win, right? Great salespeople, they're very driven to succeed. Positive energy, because it's just I can't teach that. You are a positive energy person or you're not, but your customer is going to make decisions about how they feel about the experience based on your energy. So achievement drive, positive energy, and then the third I would suggest is coachability. You have to have somebody who wants to learn, who wants to grow, who is constantly challenging themselves and allowing themselves to be challenged. But if you show me those three things, achievement drive, positive energy, and coachability, I will show you a future superstar.
So how do you, if you find somebody, you're one of these lucky employers that has these
Yeah.
people with the positive energy
Yeah.
and the the will to win, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you do with them? Like, how can you put them in the best position to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it and recognize first of all that if you want you know, if you want somebody who is low maintenance and easy to manage and will never give you any kind of trouble whatsoever, you can find them out there. But those are not superstars. I kind of look at it this way: you take an old horse and you put it in a field and tell it to eat your grass. That's all that horse is going to do. Do not enter it in a race. But if you have a racehorse, that racehorse is going to be high maintenance. Racehorses are very high maintenance, and you just have to go in understanding that that person is they're going to be asking the question, what is in my way of my success? And they're going to be asking you to help. And I think that that's where we come alongside our top salespeople and say, let's identify the barriers that are causing you to be anything less than as successful as you can be. As we remove the barriers, then what do? There's no harness. It's just run. Just run. And I think that's a good way to be able to look at those high performing salespeople.
Would we be able to argue, Jeff, that good salespeople have emotional intelligence? Maybe they're a little more sensitive to other people's energy. And because of that, they're a little more needy.
Yeah, it's a good question. Sometimes we think of this picture in our mind of a salesperson, and sometimes that's sort of a pejorative picture. We picture, this product in the hair, and the medallion, and the pinky rings, and flashy clothes and everything, and that's I don't think that's the picture of the modern effective sales professional. In fact, I would go so far as to say that in many ways, I think introverts make better salespeople than extroverts, because for extroverts, it's so out there after a while. With introverts, it's like, no, talk to me about you. Let's figure out who you are and what you have going for you. So I think that we have to sort of get in our mind, what is that great salesperson? How do they carry themselves? And I do think that they have a tremendous amount of emotional intelligence, but more important is the idea that they understand how the emotional intelligence affects the person that they're talking to. In other words, this is not going to be all about me. I'm in a sales presentation. This is not the Jeff Shore Show. This is all about the buyer who is standing in front of me, and people who can subjugate their own ego, their own process, their own sales presentation, all of those things, to simply ask what's in the best interest of the person who's in front of my face right now. Those are going to be your most successful salespeople.
So we have a few topics to get through
Yeah.
today. The first one I think is relevant for literally anyone in any industry, which is creating purchasing urgency. So
Yeah.
getting customers off the fence. It seems to me buying cycles have been elongated, like in the last few years. It just takes longer to make decisions, at least in B2B. How do
Yeah.
you create that purchasing urgency to get the customer to slide the credit card faster?
Right. Yes, this is a dominant issue right now. There's no question about it. And so when we diagnose that, then we find here, and this isn't just about sales, this is about human nature in general. But when the opposite of certainty is not uncertainty, it's risk. So right now we are dealing in an economy where buyer uncertainty is high. And when the buyer uncertainty is high, then the perceived risk is also high. And I think that's what causes people to slow down, to evaluate their choices more deeply. They are afraid of making a mistake because right now, especially picture or big ticket purchase items, whether that's in the B2C world like a home or a car, or in the B2B world where I'm just trying to figure out, I got to make this call. How is my company going to be doing once we make this decision? Either way, that sense of high uncertainty in the market factors, in political upheaval, in all kinds of different issues, they all weigh on my mind, and they tend to slow down that decision-making process. So what do we do about it? Well, I think we have to find a way then, if the problem is uncertainty, well, what can we bring to them by way of greater clarity in what their future is going to look like? Because I'm of the opinion when we say that people aren't very urgent, I disagree with that. I think you wouldn't be talking to them unless they had a problem that needed to be solved. And the
Mm-hmm.
single greatest predictor of urgency is not your special promotion or what interest rate on the deal or anything else. The single greatest predictor of urgency is dissatisfaction. It's the problem in your life that needs to be solved. So if we can give them a greater clarity of what their life is going to look like when they move forward, then that sense of certainty lowers their sense of risk, and that speeds up the process. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. So what can you bring to the table? Like how can you enunciate the value in a
Hmm.
way and really just make that crystal clear?
Yeah.
And I like that you talk about the problem to be solved because I always talk about Clayton Christensen and his jobs to be done framework from his book The Innovator's Dilemma, where he says every customer is hiring a product or service to get a job done. Like how are you helping them achieve that job?
Yeah. Right. I have been teaching for years a formula by which we make purchase decisions. And again, this could be, certainly could be a home, it could be a car, it could frankly be a tuna sandwich. It could be a $10 million enterprise deal with an organization. We make decisions to move forward and make a purchase decision when we got three factors in place. Our current dissatisfaction, that is what's wrong with my life right now that needs to be fixed, multiplied by my future promise, that's the clarity of what I want my life to look like when my problem is fixed. So I have current dissatisfaction multiplied by future promise, and those two things have to be greater than cost and fear.
Mhm.
So the current dissatisfaction motivates me forward, the future promise motivates me forward, the cost and fear holds me back. And right now, we are looking at something of an imbalance out there as the perceived cost fear is very, very high. So I can look at it, I can say, well, what do I do to lower cost fear? And that's a viable strategy. But I would rather start by trying to figure out, well, what is your current dissatisfaction? How significant is your problem and how quickly does it need to be solved? And then, do I have a solution that gives you a compelling future promise that allows you to look into your future with that idea of saying, yes, that's what I want. Because if my current dissatisfaction is really, really high and my future promise is really, really high, then I have less concern about cost and fear. And if I could, Blake, just to give you a real quick example of this, my
Yeah.
wife and I, a few years ago, we were going to be in France for 3 weeks. We got there on day one. We had landed on an early morning flight, and we walked Paris all week long, all day long. And by the end of the day, my feet were killing me. I brought the wrong shoes, and this was day one of a 3 week trip, walking all around Europe. So I walk into a shoe store in France at 5 o'clock. How high is my current dissatisfaction? Right, it's really, really high. And I
Mhm.
talked to the salesperson, and he says, I've got exactly what you're looking for, a shoe that's stylish here in Europe, but super comfortable. You're going to enjoy the rest of your trip. And I put them on, and my feet instantly felt better. So now my future promise is high. What are the chances that I bought the shoes?
Pretty good.
100%. But
Yeah.
I haven't told you the price yet. And I know
Okay.
what you're thinking right now. It doesn't matter. If the current dissatisfaction is that high and the future promise is that high, then it minimizes the concerns that I have around cost and fear. And I think oftentimes we try and figure out how to lower cost fear without fully understanding what is their dissatisfaction, what is their future promise. Figure those things out first, and the sale will start to roll out in front of you.
This episode is sponsored by Scale. Want to launch a promotion, but instead you're launching another IT ticket? Does expanding into a new market feel like building a tech startup? Sounds painful. Enterprise commerce shouldn't hurt, and with scale, it doesn't. Scale is the flexible, scalable e commerce platform built to grow enterprise brands pain free. Don't just take our word for it. Brands like Harrods, Manchester United, and Snipes trust scale to power their business. So why are you still suffering? So visit Scale today. That's SCAYLE. Yes, the Y is silent because you never have to ask why Scale isn't performing. Or find the link in the podcast description below. So once you know the dissatisfaction, though, how does that change how you communicate with the prospect?
Well, that's a great question. That's an important question because people don't make decisions according to their dissatisfaction. They make decisions according to the emotion tied to their dissatisfaction. So it's not enough, for example, if I'm selling a car, to find out that somebody says, "Well, my car is old." All you did was tell me the age. You didn't tell me what that means to you. How does old affect you on emotional level? So until we understand the pain points, not the details of the dissatisfaction, but the emotion of the dissatisfaction, then we're never going to be able to connect with the customer. But if I give you, again, just give you a real estate example, I remember the story of a buyer. It was he and his wife and three girls, ages 10, 12, and 15, and they lived in a very old home that only had one bathroom. So
Mm,
just think that through. You got
yeah,
five people, three girls in one bathroom. Are you kidding me? And
right.
so how high is that dissatisfaction? Well, you could look at it and say, well, the dissatisfaction is their home is too small, but the emotion isn't there. You could look at it and say they don't have enough bathrooms. The emotion isn't there. You could look at it and say there is war every morning and it's affecting the relationship of the family dynamics and we feel like bad parents.
Yeah,
There's the emotion.
yes.
Now, when I want to show them a solution, I'm not going to show them a bigger home. I'm not going to show them more bathrooms. I'm going to show them a happy family. And so this is the idea. We've got to get a layer down here until we understand the emotion. And I know I just put this in the terms of a home buying situation, but it's true even in a B2B situation. If I'm trying to, write this seven-figure contract with a company over here, do I make that decision? I'm trying to sell this to a company. I need to know not just what the problem is, but how it's frustrating you and how it's keeping you up at night. And I want to be able to promise you and give you a sense into the future of how good you're going to look and how efficient you're going to be and how great you can take care of your customers when you invoke my solution.
Yeah, I love that. Let me ask you about incentivizing salespeople
Sure.
because I think that's a big challenge for our audience is how do you get people to care? Like I'm even seeing your energy. Like you have so much energy. You probably wake up, jump up out of bed in the morning, excited, serve somebody to get out there and do your work. What incentivizes salespeople? Is it just money? How do you get them to care?
Well, look, interestingly enough, there was a study done by this a psychologist by the name of Frederick Herzberg. This was several decades ago, asking the question: what are the critical internal motivations? Not dangling the external. We'll get back to that. What are the internal motivations? And Herzberg listed a number of motivations, and money came in at number 7 on the list of all the
Mhm.
motivations, which I found really, really interesting. But his research suggested that money is really just a scorecard. It's not actually the amount of money that I make. It's how much money do I make relative to how much money everybody else makes. So,
Okay.
if the number 2 salesperson is making this, dang it, I better be making that because I'm number 1. So the money itself is not the issue. And I think that that's probably true for most, multi-billionaires that you look at today. I mean, come on, you're never going to spend your $25 billion. What are you doing? You're looking at the person who's got $26 billion and trying to figure out how you can climb higher on the list, right? So I think that that's the scorecard. Herzberg looked at it and said the number one internal motivator, and I mentioned this earlier, it is achievement drive. And that great top performers have to win. This is the thing about salespeople is that they have to win. Second to that in motivation, interestingly enough, was job enjoyment. How much
Mhm.
do I enjoy the environment, the people that I work with, the culture? And then third to that was recognition. How much recognition am I getting? How much am I being noticed for the great work that I'm doing? So if you're a leader, you look at it from that side and you ask yourself the question, well, how do I give them the chance to succeed? How do I create a good environment for my salespeople? And then how do I make sure that they get that public recognition when they're doing a job well? And you're going to be well down the road of retaining your best people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, is it hard for you to give tough love to your clients when they're just not doing a good job with the culture of like the employees just don't like working there and you can see it very clearly and you have to tell them their baby is ugly, technically?
It's hard early on in a relationship. We work with companies for many, 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 many years consistently. So as time goes by, you become more of a family member, and family members tend to be more blunt with their critiques. But early on, yes, and we have had situations where we have had to look at deep into ourselves and say to a even a newer client, look, you need to know this, and I'm going to give you a little tough love, and knowing as I say that it could cost me that particular relationship, but I would rather do that than to try and have this superficial relationship over a longer period of time.
All right, got it. So let's go back to some of the core things that you teach. We
Sure.
don't have a ton of time left, but I do want to get to understanding friction.
Yeah.
So what holds buyers back? And we talked a little bit about it. Was there anything else we should know about how to overcome this?
Yeah, when we think about how we incentivize a buyer to move forward, how do we create urgency, for example, and we think, well, I've got this special promotion, or I got financing terms that are going to be more of a special to you. I got a flashy brochure and a website. All of those things are fuel to the decision, but I don't think we spend enough time asking the question, what is the friction that's causing somebody to hold back? So if I look at, should I go on vacation in Cancun? The fuel is the idea of the rest and relaxation and sitting on a beach with a
Mhm.
cocktail with an
Mhm.
umbrella in my glass. All those things incentivize me moving forward. But when I think about friction, I think, how do I get the time off? What is this going to cost me? Is my passport up to date? Is it safe to go to Cancun? These are all friction points. So if you look, for example, at the rise over the last several years of all-inclusive resorts, and there are a lot of all-inclusive resorts anymore.
Yeah.
Why are they doing that? Because they're removing the friction of how much will this really cost me above my lodging every night. Wherever we can, if we can look at reducing friction points, we make it a smoother path for that customer. My recommendation is that organizations should be sitting down and asking that question: What's getting in the way? What are those friction points? Better yet, hold those focus groups to ask that question directly to your buyers. What's standing in the way? What makes it difficult for you to move forward? If we remove
Mhm.
the friction points, then we have a smoother sailing into the ultimate decision.
So let's close the formal portion of our interview with the question about the psychology of a purchasing decision. Can
Yeah.
you unpack how people choose to buy or not?
Well, I mentioned the formula: current dissatisfaction, future promise, cost fear. I think that's an important part of it. But I think the bottom line here is that if you read Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and he's the founder of behavioral economics, really, and it really comes down to the idea that we are far more emotional than we think we are when we're making a purchase decision. We think we're making a decision that is largely analytical. We are wise shoppers. We're well researched. And we make the decision out of our logic. We don't. The Danish researcher Martin Lindstrom did something interesting. He hooked people up to a functional MRI while they were making purchase decisions, saw that what was firing in the brain, 85% of the decisions we make are emotion based. And yet, so often we look at the typical sales presentation, it's about the facts, it's about the figures, it's about the analysis, it's about the data. And I think that if we look at the way that, if we want to sell the way that somebody wants to buy, we sell to the emotion. There's a big difference, for just as one case study on this, there's a big difference between a food server and says, "Did you save room for dessert?" versus the
Mhm.
food server who shows up with a tray of desserts and says, "Which one would you like?" And there's no question about it. We see the desserts, it spikes our emotion, and I say, "Me want that. Give me cake." And that is a direct appeal to the emotional aspect of what, because there's nothing logical about dessert.
Right.
Dessert is an emotional thing. So to say, did you save room for a dessert? It's a dumb question. Show them
Yeah.
the dessert. Say, which one would you like?
Right. Smart. I love that. And I think that's a great example. I think that and the Cancun, the resorts, like we've definitely learned so much from you already. Are you ready for some rapid fire fun questions?
Sure. Well, fire away. This will be fun. Sure. Yeah.
All right, cool. What is the most important part of your morning routine?
It's I wake up early, I pour a cup of coffee, I sit down in a chair where I overlook we have a pond on our property and the chair overlooks the pond. It is a outstanding time to be able to to rest and relax. I read my Bible, have some prayer time, I journal, I'll do a little reading, I'll play connections and Wordle on my phone, and all of those things just help me I use Michael Hyatt's focus planner, and it starts with what are your daily rituals. Those rituals are critical because you mentioned this earlier. I want to make sure by the time I get to my desk, I am fired up and ready to go, that I'm in the best mental place that I can be.
Love it. Wonderful. So, what show are you currently streaming?
We are streaming Wolf Hall on PBS. It's the story of Thomas Cromwell and the advisory role that he played for Henry VIII. It's
Wow.
my wife and I love historical fiction, and when historical fiction is done well in a show, as they do oftentimes on PBS, and we're all in.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you might have answered this. What's your favorite leadership book or resource?
Yeah, well, I did certainly mention Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. There's no question about it. But I would also commend two leaders, specifically a book called The Power of Full Engagement, about how we manage our energy. I've probably read that book 4 times over the last 20 years, but it's timeless. I think energy management is something that we don't talk about nearly enough. We talk about calendar management, priority management. I think energy management is an underappreciated aspect of our success.
I love that. Okay. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Um, you know, I've got 7 grandkids, and those moments with the grandkids are really great. But I will also tell you, about 10 years ago, I had just recently turned 50. I'm just turned 60 not that long ago. But I said, what am I going to do now? And I said, I'm going to hire a coach to teach me how to ice skate, and I'm
Mhm.
going to join a hockey league. And so now I am out there 2 nights a week as a rink rat playing hockey, and I'm like a little kid trying to keep up with the 25-year-olds. And I'm in my happy place. I am now the captain of the Assassins. That's
Nice.
it's the ironic name. We're called the Assassins, but we can't shoot. But we have such a great time. And look, I just I love doing that. I love playing the bass guitar sometimes at my church. I love hanging out with the grandkids, working out, playing gin rummy with Karen. My motto is life is a buffet and I want to die full. I want to be
Love it.
involved in a lot of different things.
Love it. And no wonder you like the all-inclusive resort because you can eat anything you want anytime.
There you go. Yeah.
Um, what is your favorite type of vacation?
Um, we go, we try and take 2 vacations one year, each year, a chill vacation and an explore vacation. So we keep going back to Maui and staying in the same condo for 2 weeks every year in February. We just sit on the lanai and watch the whales jump in. It is just absolutely magical. And then after that, usually in the fall, we'll take an explore vacation. We love Europe, France and Italy in particular. But I think the main thing is we love it's not, seeing the Mona Lisa. You got to do it once and check the box. It's the little tiny experiences that
Mhm.
happen behind the scenes in the vacations that sometimes you just stumble into that are absolutely magical that you'll remember for the rest of your life. It's the experiences in vacation more than the guided tours and the events.
Mhm. Okay. What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one of the things that tends to happen is that we haven't, especially for executives, we have this plow through mentality. I'm just going to put my head down and work harder. It's not the way the brain is wired. The brain is like any other muscle. It's going to get stressed out. So I have to tell you, there are times when I will, on a tough day, have an emergency game of gin rummy at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and go upstairs and say, Karen, stop what you're doing. We're playing cards. But I think that opportunity, and sometimes I'll just walk over to my window in my office and look out the window because I work out of my home, and I'll just stop and rest and
Mhm.
just let the brain be quiet for 5 minutes. But the key thing is you got to detach. You got to
Mhm.
step back, go pour a cup of coffee, go walk around the building, go take 10 deep breaths. But I think you got to detach from time to time.
Well said. If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Well, I mean, listen, longtime hero Jesus. I can't deny that sitting down and having a conversation with Jesus Christ would be absolutely amazing. If you want something more contemporary, I will say that Billy Joel wrote the soundtrack of my youth, and
Mhm.
he. I don't think most people recognize the level of talent in the musicianship there. Sitting down and having a conversation with Billy Joel would be really cool.
And lastly, if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
Um, Well, it's a tattoo actually. Bach, when he wrote all of his music, at the bottom of his music, he put the letters SDG, short for Soli Deo Gloria, all to the glory of God, and that's the way that I want to live my life.
Well, this has been so fun and so interesting. And if our listeners want to listen to, I think you have a podcast and
We
follow your
do, yeah.
content, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can find all things at jeffshore.com. That makes it really easy for everybody. There's the podcast. We do our 5 minute sales training, comes out every Saturday morning for a little 5 minute sales training blurb and all kinds of fun stuff. It's all over at jeffshore.com.
I'm going to start listening to that. You've definitely won me over. This has been really fun. Thank you for doing this.
It was a real pleasure, Blake. You're a pro's pro. I love the podcast. Keep up doing your great work.
Thank you, Jeff. Everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on social media, including Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and more.